Okay. All right. So we're going to get started then. I welcome everybody to our Near and Afar. We have two wonderful poets lined up for tonight. We have, as we always do, we send out the bios in our e-blast and made otherwise available. So I don't go through them all. But joining us from Georgia tonight, Stephen Shields.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you all for making some time available this evening for the reading here. If you see Georgia Poetry Society down here in the corner of my screen, it's just because that's the email address that we're using for me tonight. I am the outgoing president of the Georgia Poetry Society. So, like some of you who have been in poetry societies, it's been a long slog through this pandemic, and we just began having face-to-face meetings in October. So this is good practice for me to get back into the rhythm of presenting before people. So I thought what I'd do is I'd read a couple of things, mostly from a book that came out just before the pandemic showed up. It's my book, Creation Story. It was published just before the pandemic appeared, so I've got a few things to read from that tonight. But I wanted to start with this one. Till human voices wake us and we drown. She had given up her fins for him, but could not abandon her gills. And so she slept beside him in her briny tank, bubbling softly with innocent pout, while he cocked an occasional sleep-filled eye at her prone form. She, gracefully hovering amidst bubbles, in the light of the flower moon, itself raw silk, spilling through the upstairs open bedroom window. She, who made marriage to a mermaid something more than fantasy. She, who had come to him while fishing, undulant, singing, smiling, serene. Then he would lie awake and remember how limp she had gone, how pale the morning they got her results. Their friends knew nothing, and she forbade him to tell, and so they ate their breakfast in silence, the plastic wrap on her chair wiped clean with the dishes afterward. How strong she tried to be, how seldom she cried, or even tried to. What were tears to a mermaid? Just more useless liquid. She told him to carry on as if nothing had happened. You hear me? She would hiss at him. Nothing has changed. Nothing. They both knew better, of course, but he would sometimes ask in his hesitating way if there was anything he could do for her, only to get her sardonic reply, not really, not unless you can make this go away, which he couldn't, and so the conversation would idle, drift off in waves. At the end, they grew tired of the hallway clock, its pendulum parsing the darkness, the minutes, the time remaining. And so one night, he silenced it, stilling its beat. That night, she asked him not to help her into her tank. I'll dissolve, she said. It's almost time. They held each other for hours before she calmly took off her ring with a shrug. Then they drove to the nearby ocean, where she slipped away without a further word or glance goodbye. He tried to follow, then heard her distant voice. Honey, honey, wake up. I have several students I teach. If you saw the bio, you know I teach at one of those directional schools here in Georgia. I've been there for quite a long time. And I just dropped my note about what I want to read. One of my students works for Target, and she was working one day when a young child was heard muttering something about raining tacos, and she posted it to Facebook, and it inspired this poem before I knew there was a song by the same name for children. Raining tacos. Last year, the sky was full of ducks and duck parts. The year before, the frogs. But now we gather at the entrance of the Target to pause and watch the sky rain down the beef, the shredded cheese and lettuce, the soft flour and crispy corn tortillas. An occasional waiter lands with a thud on the hood of an ancient Subaru and sets off its alarm. People are scrambling to get to their cars with their merchandise, frantic to pick up the kids at band practice or taekwondo. And it's messy out there because the storm drains are getting clogged now with diced tomatoes, green chilies, and corn relish. Umbrellas are streaming salsa. The guacamole and the sour cream makes driving so slick. Cars are sliding into one another but not stopping, not even for iPhone pictures of the accident, because it means turning off the wipers that are smearing the smoldering brown grease across the windshield. Moments later, the torrent subsides, and the manager shambles out to assemble a semblance of something edible, proceeds to taste his broken creation in the middle of the parking lot. "Not half bad, folks," he loudly proclaims. "Help yourselves." And he wades back inside through heaps of shattered taco shells, the gross ingredients, tiptoes through streams of rapidly flattening Mexican beer to help the next guest at customer service, stands there smiling as if he had had something to do with it, mutters, "Need some hot sauce, though." My wife and I attend a church where on Wednesday evenings they have testimonies. And one night, a couple of years ago, a woman came through on her way to Florida. We had never seen her before, and we haven't seen her since, but she had to stop somewhere and praise God for saving her pet, which is fine, except it turned out the pet was a chicken, a pet chicken, and the chicken's name was Freckles. And I was rather proud of myself. I kept from laughing out loud, which is like, okay. So anyway, this is a little sonnet in honor of Freckles, the pet chicken. Freckles. For a chicken, young Freckles was improbably bright. She studied the stars, the heights of poetic sublime, delighted in deconstructing the canon by night, wandered by day like Wordsworth pursuing a rhyme. Voltaire, she believed, had rather missed the point. Tending one's garden, yes, but not like some drone, bereft of all hope in the possibility of a joint harmony with a God whose optimism shone. Well, one morning, while musing the meaning of existence, young Freckles got lost while wandering the woods. But before she became some Aesopian fox's subsistence, she was snatched in the sky like Elijah, her earthly goods shucked, winging her way ever higher in grace, until finally touching her father's feathered face. My mother used to accuse me of having an excessive amount of imagination, which I never saw as a particular problem. If you looked at my bio, you know, I've managed to wind my way through careers as an all-night disc jockey, and I'm a college professor and doing poetry. So that's a pretty odd combination. However, having an imagination sometimes gives you things to think about that you wonder later when you write this down on paper why you did that. And this is one of them. The Martians wore bow ties. You are being held in a hospital of some sort. You are trying to escape, then taken into an operating room. The anesthesiologist is one of the bad guys. It's over in seconds. You are the anesthesiologist. You are watching yourself. The anesthesiologist turns out to be an undercover agent who helps you escape. You and the anesthesiologist are captured by subhuman robots who strap you to an operating table. Water begins to flood into the operating room. You and the anesthesiologist, who now resembles your father, decide to swim through the air to New Paris, Ohio, where you will be safe from the Hollow Earth people. Your anesthesiologist father confesses he knows nothing about anesthesiology, but instead is a simple turkey farmer. He offers you a beer. You are taken into an operating room. The anesthesiologist also offers you a beer. Won't this hurt? You ask. You know, without the anesthetic. A little, he drawls. Still, have a beer. At least it's cold. A trumpet blast suddenly shakes the operating room, just as the bad guys are about to open you up. Jesus is back, riding on a many-colored pony. You upbraid your inner dreamer for such a ridiculous Deo ex machina. The Martians appear just as the anesthesiologist lowers the mask to your face. Pandemonium ensues as Martians stalk the hallways of the hospital, blasting everything in sight. They finally arrive at the operating theater. They stop and stare at you. You stare back at them. They are wearing bow ties. Suddenly, you're standing at Hiroshima, just before the bomb falls. It is a normal morning in late summer. People are going about their business, though backwards and in slow motion. Crap jumps back into a dog in an alley. A pitcher of water reassembles itself in the hands of a clumsy waiter. Clouds move in the wrong direction. In the distance, a bomber returns to its base. Only you seem to be making this possible. You are led into an operating room. The mask is fitted to your face. Okay, I want you to count backwards from 10, the anesthesiologist mutters. Just as you lose consciousness, you notice he's wearing a bow tie. As a young man, my time was spent with my mother and her family, who lived on a farm near my hometown in a little Indiana town called Van Buren. And at the time, their parents were still alive and eventually passed on, as we all do. And unlike my grandparents, who were farmers of soybeans and corn, which is pretty typical of Indiana, these great-grandparents were fruit farmers. And so one day it was time for the farm to be sold. And I was there, and this is my memory of how that event went. The poem is called Fruitage. I was the oldest, so of course it was my idea to climb the red slats of the corn crib, to perch on its corrugated roof and survey for the last time our tiny kingdom. She was gone, mercifully, some said, not having been in her right mind for some time, and so in need of constant care. Now this, strangers piling out of cars and trucks along the gravel road, pulling up behind her ancient Hudson in the muddy driveway, women picking up and examining with a knowing frown the white ceramic dishpan, meat grinder, potato masher, some rusty tools my great-grandfather left behind, everything going, everything. And my mother and her mother seated at the card table, making change from a metal box, gently dispensing baked goods and greetings. The Indiana breeze fingering the hats and trees, waving the creaky sign beside the road that proclaimed there'd been a fruit farm there. We swung our legs while auctioneers launched fusillades of verbal rockets, extra noise and syllables aimed at straw hats and bow ties, at overalls and work boots. A bored adult cast an occasional eye up at us while lazily spitting a brown stream, Mom admonishing us to get down from there. If you boys break your fool necks, don't ask me to push your wheelchairs. About then, someone would call her and she would have to turn away. Meanwhile, the sun warmed the metal beneath our butts while we pondered the fruit shed, the empty barn, the fallow field lying to the west behind the neighbor farmer's barbed wire fence. In back of us, the trees where Warden and Vesta had made their extra money in season, the cling peaches, pears and plums, apples good for canning mostly or making applesauce. At lunch, we scrambled down for chicken, after which Mom confronted us with a stack of peck baskets she'd found stashed in a corner of the barn. Here, you boys want to climb something? Take these out there and make yourselves useful while we clean up, she said, waving at the orchard, tall with weeds, rusting implements looming like monsters from seas of field grass. Go pick what you can. Otherwise, get over here and help us with these tables and chairs. Given that choice, we toted tables back to the church van, watched our elders drift away to Huntington, Upland, or Van Buren. The day waned. The house was finally closed. A few things got left behind, but not many. And Mom, the eldest child herself, drove silently home, the moon racing us across ripening fields and darkening farms, heat lightning portraits of silos in sharp relief. The wind sang Woody Guthrie songs about the land, but we were in no mood to listen. I've got two additional poems to read for you. One is in honor of a friend of mine. You might imagine, as a former disc jockey, I have some old disc jockey friends I keep in touch with on Facebook, and one of them has turned into a stand-up comedian. Interestingly enough, a couple of the others have turned into college professors. I'm not sure what that link is about, but okay. So this is for my friend Dave Dugan. The title is Arms Akimbo. Young Dave Dugan prepares to bull rush the audience when he suddenly turns into a swan. The crowd gasps, laughs, and then roars as the long-necked bird storms angrily toward them. Convinced it's part of his act, no one moves except to throw popcorn. The children giggling in their seats, moms and dads chortling. The ringmaster wears a ready grin, clowns clapping, the sawdust swirling. Even the elephants trumpet in unison as Dave tours the ring, honking furiously, spitting mad that somebody, maybe the sword swallower, tied his shoes together again to see him do a face plant near the testy tigers, whose claws took out the trainer in another town last week, several miles and universes away. But now the swan dissolves. The feet are hardly clean. But there he is again, nonplussed, but none the worse for wear. No one quite believes what they just saw, but they applaud all the same. Let me conclude for the moment and make way for Emiliano, hopefully. Sometimes you get a poem that comes to you fully formed. It pops out seemingly from nowhere, and you look at it and you realize it's not only fully formed, it's rhymed and metered too, and you think, this one is a gift. And so this is my parting gift for you this evening. It's entitled "The Idea of the Next World as a Valentine for Many People." We found God sitting in a silent nursery, surrounded by the souls of those who could not hear or speak, with scissors and glue and cursory glances at us, engaged in making valentines. And the red hearts the children handled were real hearts, upon which were inscribed real cares, real woes, and great joys, the names of God and various angels who wished them well, who loved them so. And he taught them how to make the special sign, the secret mark that signified their loving ties to him, to home, to heavenward. Align them all with love, and let them go. And, fluttering, depart the room in silent flight, to glide toward the darkness whence they came, and, landing, reawaken in the mortal heart the knowledge of the realm that is to come. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you very, very much. That was great stuff. Really,
Yes.
really great.
Great poetry.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, yay, poetry.
Yay, poetry. All right, wonderful. Emiliano, do we have you on the line?
I am here. I am on the phone.
Fantastic.
Can you hear?
Yep, we can hear you. We can hear you fine. So without it,
Excellent.
okay, without any
I
further.
No, I apologize for not being able to make it to the Zoom meeting. But anyway, I'm going to get started. I do appreciate the reading by our friend Stephen Owens. He did a fine job. And I'm going to move along with the next poem I called Time to Dream. At night, when I sit by the window, sipping a glass of red wine, I feel like the lord of a kingdom with no possessions but time. Oh yes, time to think about tomorrow, time to dream under the stars. We all know that people say practice makes perfection, and this is very true. I wrote a poem I called Practicing. If a physician makes a living practicing medicine, a poet may certainly dream practicing poetry. The next poem I'm going to read, I call it Powers. And we know that we all are surrounded by powers that want to control our lives one way or another, but it is inevitable. Powers. The power of knowledge, the power of prayer, the power of love, the power of nature, the power of persuasion, and the power of the sword. With the power of the Almighty, don't forget the written word along with your smartphone. I thank God for it because I'm using a smartphone in order to communicate with you.
Right.
We know that poetry comes in many forms, personal styles by the author, and we are pleased to know about it. I wrote a poem about this subject, a poem that I call Poetry Can Be. And it goes like this. Poetry can be fantasy coming from a dreamer. Poetry can be joyful coming from a happy man. Poetry can be inspiring coming from a winner. Poetry can be romantic coming from the heart. Poetry can be sensual coming from a lover. Poetry can be meaningful coming from a philosopher. Poetry can be religious coming from a nun. Poetry can be inexplicable coming from an intellectual. Poetry can be funny coming from a comedian. Poetry can be sad coming from a loser. Poetry can be interesting coming from a thinker. Poetry can be a melody coming from her lips. Poetry can be depressing coming from a tortured mind. Poetry can be political coming from a radical. Poetry can be crude coming from an angry man. Poetry can be irrational coming from a wannabe. Poetry can be obscene coming from a pervert. Poetry can be senseless coming from an idiot. Poetry can be cruel coming from a madman. Poetry can be lost coming from the fields of emptiness. Poetry can be just about anything we want it to be. But poetry can be wise and sincere, coming from a poet like you or me. By now, you all have noticed that I have a foreign accent, and that is because I was born and raised in the country of Spain. I came to the Philadelphia area a long time ago. That is Philadelphia, PA, not Philadelphia, Mississippi. And in times like this, where we're approaching Thanksgiving, I'm very thankful to the occasion and the celebration of such a holiday. Ode to Squanto is the title of my poem. And of course, Squanto was a Native American Indian of the Wampanoag tribe in the land we now call Massachusetts. Indefinitely, he was an invaluable friend to European settlers who arrived in the early 17th century. Squanto. Up and down he walked and shouted, "Who are these people? Where do they come from? Why don't they ask for permission to dock their ship in my harbor? They certainly look strange. If they come one step closer, I don't think I could restrain myself from sending them back to hell, where it seems they do belong. They look pale, weary, hungry. They talk fast and say words that I cannot understand. They use some kind of a language we had never heard before. The men act quite funny. The women look shy, and the children look around with eyes of fear and the desire to cry. Yes, they do dress so much in black with those silly-looking hats. They truly do make me laugh. They also brought a religion, customs, willpower, and songs for someone they call their God. I do not appreciate that, nor I have to give a damn. I simply cannot believe this is happening to me while in my own land I breathe. This is crazy, so bizarre. Yet Squanto thought about it as he took one step back. Then he smiled, taking a chance. Since that day, the shoreline of Plymouth Rock has not ever been the same. I'm going to read a couple of more poems and end up my, my recitation. In silence, in front of a piece of paper, my eyes blink with curiosity and a minor of anxiety from the harbor of my soul. In silence, I escape out of my thoughts to chisel a poem engraved word by word. Dreams I want to call my own. While I run my hand over the surface of rhyme to polish angles, ideas, the forms I shape for a song for you. And my last poem of this evening is going to be something very simple. It's called Defining Poetry. And before I read the poem, I want to apologize for not being able to log properly on the Zoom room because I tried to do it this morning with somebody else and the machine works. So I don't know what happened to me tonight. Maybe like my brain, I'm going to another planet. Anyway, defining poetry. Poetry is the sperm of honest feelings embedded in brilliant thoughts, looking for shelter in the womb of waiting verses, often using rhyming words. And with this poem, I do thank you very much for your attention.
Oh, thank you very much, Emiliano. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Certainly worth our wait. Thank you very much for your perseverance. I'm sorry that we couldn't get you in on the Zoom this time. We'll have you back again. But
Thank
we really do appreciate it. Okay, we're going to do the open mic now. Again, if you don't want to be in the open mic, please throw your name in the chat. Tell me in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that everybody here wants to be. So without any further ado, we're going to start off with Marvin, you're up, and Ann Cohn, you're on deck. Marvin, you're muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Could you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks since Election Day. And my poem deals with voting, and it's called Choices. Vote? You kidding? They're all crooks. My name is Tom. I've lost my toes, frostbite, starving, God-forsaken place, this Valley Forge. But this suffering I'll suffer if I can get a country out of this. Does my vote count? Does it really matter? God, the Rebs are charging, the glint off their bayonets, their musket raised to batter our brains, their damn screech churns our blood as if there's not enough of it here at Gettysburg. But as Father Abraham said, this union must hold, as we must hold this ridge, Cemetery Ridge. How appropriate. Vote? For what? For corruption? They spat upon us as we walked for suffrage down Broadway, Pennsylvania Avenue, Piccadilly 2. Go home and do the dishes, cook your husband's dinner, change diapers, wash your baby's snot. I got some guy's tobacco juice right in my eye. I'll vote for you in the bedroom, dearie. It's worth it all if we win the vote. I voted once, my man won, but what a disappointment. I raised the flag at Suribachi. Down below rose some cheers, but mostly moans, groans, and tears. The mangled living mangled with the corpses, strewn about the black and bloody sands of Curse Iwo Jima. A head detached seemed to stare at me. I seen, unseen, I'll dream of this forever. But what nightmares will haunt me if I didn't volunteer? I want my kids to raise the flag of freedom. Vote? Well, maybe.
All right. Thank you very much, Marvin.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. So Ann Cohen, you're up, and Daryl, you're on deck.
Okay, Tony, I'm going to ask if I could quickly share the screen for a hot 2 seconds.
Well, it depends on how hot, this is a
Well,
library program.
it's clean, I promise.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, let's see if I can get this up here. Okay, everyone see that sign?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, because I didn't hit share. Oh, boy. What did I do? Oh, it says you disabled the screen sharing, Tony.
I made you the co-host. That should give you full screen sharing rights.
Okay, let me try this again. Okay, share. Okay, everyone see it
There you
now?
go. There it is. Oh, it's a sign.
It's a sign.
It's
Okay.
a sign.
It's a sign. All right. Here's the reason for that sign. Notice the 3 different dates on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the reason for the sign. Do we see this?
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Yes.
All right, do we see a wedding picture?
Yes, we see a
Yes,
wedding
we
picture.
do.
Yes, we see a
Okay,
wedding picture.
so that's my son and my brand new daughter-in-law.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So now I'm going to go back to read the poem, and I'm going to stop the share. So I with much encouragement and frantic emails to Judy, I finished it the morning of, which was Friday morning. So this is what I read to them as part of the toast. It's called Someday Is Here. From Adelphi's arboreal campus to wild AmeriCorps West and Blue Air Force yonder, yours is a country kind of love, wide as the great outdoors, crisscrossing the continental divide, hopscotching time zones, time proving always the greatest distance between 2 hearts. Schooled early in sacrifice, inspired by others before you, you have chosen lives of service. Christopher, guardian against forces seen and unseen. Amy, mender of brokenness and promoter of healing. For years, own fires, patiently breathing hope into flame, that someday you will view the moon and stars side by side instead of miles of aisles apart. Your someday has arrived. Today, ancestors perching on seraphim's wings watch from cathedral rafters as the living witness you pledge your lives and love to each other. Wholeheartedly, we pledge our lives and love to guide and support you. Remember to look towards heaven, not only in lean times, but in all the in-between times, expressing gratitude for abundance and ordinary blessings. We rejoice with you. Your someday is here. Your someday is now. Finally.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Daryl, you're up. Doreen, you're on deck.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be back. My poem is called Alice. Alice falling through the rabbit's hole, the echoes of your fall down, down, into a world of wonderment, fright, and illusion. Find the right antidote to enhance your delusion. Be Alice tall or ridiculously small. Tea time with the Mad Hatter and Hare. A garden of cards and roses painted red. A queen who says, off with your head. A jury of animals in your kingdom below. A nightmare becomes real in your silent lucidity. Visions of the Cheshire Cat. Smoking a hookah with a caterpillar upon a mushroom. Trapped in rooms. Long hallways, which doorways to choose. Seems wherever you go, you lose. No straight answers in this silly place. Only questions to ponder when you awake.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, Doreen, you're up. And I apologize if I'm going to mess this up, but Fereshta?
Yes, you didn't mess it up.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
All right, so Doreen's up and Fereshta is on deck.
Okay, I'm going to read.
No.
Oh, yes.
That means
sorry.
Doreen first, after Doreen,
Yes,
then you.
yes.
There you go.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you, Stephen and Emiliano. How wonderful, how delightful your poetry and your voices are. It was just wonderful.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to read something that I found that I had posted on Facebook as my sign off one evening in 2017. It was inspired by an auction sale of Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi. It sold for $450.3 million, despite concerns for the painting's poor condition and complex history. Here's what I wrote. A tip of my hat to the stately and old. This modern world has me reeling. A look in the mirror and my blood runneth cold. Fearful, I'm no longer appealing. Then I come across art so old and so fine, it fetches a figure impressive. I suppose were I stone or some painting divine, my visage none would think less of. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Doreen. A lot of clapping. Okay. Fereshta, you're up, and Judy, you're on deck.
Okay, now I'm going to read 4 haikus instead of 3. I'm
That's
going to
fine.
cheat.
That's okay.
Okay. The feverish sun climbs the roof of the summer house, slips and falls behind the wall. Mother fries eggplants. Father plays poker with peers. Children chase the chickens. The old turtle sleeps, green grass under his gray feet, sunlight in his dreams. She watches him smile through the leaves of a cherry tree. Bluebells in his eyes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Judy, you're up, and Lewis, you're on deck.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Emiliano. Great voices. I really like this poem, even though it's a lie. This is from B is between Bix and Tweet. Between extremes. Falling out of love with summer, extremes and heat and humility, that stupor my want to move, to do anything but laze and cool. Enough of salad every night because our tomato plants are pumping out beefsteaks faster than Santa's elves with toys, and all our friends and neighbors have had their fill as well. Waiting for the first chill of November, past the fickleness of summer, waning into warm autumn, beyond the bus stop where the first day of school clothes wilt their wool and tweed fibers, surprise nights that keep the AC plugged in, shorts and flip-flops ready, and fly season that refuses to end. Not ready yet for the bluster of blizzard winds, for the holiday bustle, rustle of shopping bags, wrapping of gift boxes, cards to pen and send, family squabbles of whose turn it is to host, what to make, what to bring, how to make the holidays festive when exhaustion rules. I want to tumble into November like a lazy leaf on a twilight night, you beside me as we watch the moon face ripple a grin across a pond surface, and we sit placid, holding hands in the space between extremes. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, as always. Okay, Lewis, you're up. Naz, you're on deck.
Hello, everyone. This is something something I wrote 7 years ago. Wow. It's called Evolution's Challenge. Be not so proud yet humble, Mr. H, sapiens though you be. The last man standing may not last. Think you're above it all, truly and finally safe? Scoffing with your oversized cerebrum at the brainless, boneless ones that have outlasted you 60 times and counting? Think again, man. How long have you been here? Long enough to see the land masses move? Or the latest era maker hit? Or just long enough to see fiery rock flowing and destroying more than any nuclear thing of your own, and suffer pestilential death tolls greater than all your wars? It's yours like theirs, man, to be ever adapting, propagating, surviving, or be gone.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lewis. Naz, you're up, and Larry McCoy has a question. So Larry, you'll be on deck.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. This is the first time, actually, I'm a part of this wonderful evening, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to read, but I have something. If I can bring it up on the screen, is that right? It's in my Word.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, I'm pretty bad with technology. Judy knows about it, but I'll see. So what do? I first share the screen, right?
Do you want to share the screen or just want to read what you wrote?
No, it's on the, I don't have it. It's here in the Word document. So I have it on. So is that possible to bring it up, or?
Well, you can bring it up on your screen and then just read it. We'll still see you.
Let me see if, I don't know if I can do that. I'm not good at that at all. Let's see. Okay, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. Well, this is something that I just wrote this afternoon, and this is called The Song of My Soul. Many a times, now and then and again, my heart misses the beat. My soul transforms into the quizzical machine, shouting questions, and my innermost voice steps up and turns the nostalgic musical poetry into a melody. In the distance, I see your image, your shadow. I hear the clunking and clicking of the keyboard of old piano, which is suddenly full of life, enigmatic, mesmerizing, tantalizing, and resonating. The melodies of love that I shared with you. It is like a hypnotic transformation of the universe, singing and dancing the love saga, and it's like poetry in motion. Many a times, now and then and again, my heart digs the answers for a question. How deep is my love? And then heavens chimes in and validates the quest. My beloved, my soul, you are created only for me. Our love story and tales of our union is engraved with silver and gold linings on the pinnacle of the lush white snow, the infinite white ball of love, ever standing tall, quintessence, giant, the god of love, Mount Everest. Hark! Comes in, seated majestically on the golden chariot. Athena, the goddess of love, she tucks you in her bosom and carries you to the love altar to sanctify the lovers' union in the midst of the fog. Mine eyes seek you. You are the lily of my heart. And then my innermost voice sings again, now and again, many a times and again. You are my road to redemption. You are the light that fades the darkness. Nothing can ever change you deeply engraved image in the labyrinth of my heart and reflects the sealed union, unique and infinite. Now and again, many a times and again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Larry, you have a question.
Yes, Stephen. As a fellow Hoosier, I'd like to say I enjoyed your poetry. How did you know Dave Dugan?
I knew Dave Dugan because Dave and I both worked together at a radio station in Indianapolis.
In Indianapolis. Did he work in Missouri before?
You know, I don't think so, but I don't know for sure.
I'm going to send you an email about a Dave Dugan I worked with at CBS News one summer.
Oh, it's entirely possible. I don't know his whole history, so anything is possible.
Yeah.
So,
I'll send you a note.
Well, that'd be fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice
Thank
to see
you.
another Hoosier. How about that?
Yes, it always is.
Okay. All right. Robert Dean, you're up, and Stephen with a V is on deck.
First of all, thanks to the two features. They were terrific tonight, and I always enjoy reading with this group. This is from my second book, The Aerialist Will Not Be Performing, which is an all-ekphrastic book to the paintings of the Chicago artist Stephen Schrader. Hopefully you can make something out of this painting titled Sky People Two Finches Rise. I'm not going to try to do the share screen on it there. Hopefully.
Yep. Oh yeah, very cool.
This is and all of Steve's art existed before I wrote a single word to this, so it's not a collaboration, it's a response to. It's titled Escape Velocity. What is needed is to break free, pull away, rise above. What is needed is not the drab, the ashen, the groupthink, the gray-headed logic of last days. What is needed comes not singly, not on its own initiative, not unaided, not as comes an island. What is needed is the beating wing, the fluttering heart, the hammering pulse, the desire, the pairing 2 by 2, the olive leaf transferred beak to beak. What is needed is golden like the meadowgrass in fall, like the plumage of 2 finches rising, like the treasure of 2 hearts, treasured by 2 hearts liberally spent. What is needed is a patch of blue, a window opening in a streaming river of heaven through which we soar and dive, catch a thistle of hope, a seed of the divine. What is needed is to fold the wings and glide between warble and twitter, string the perimeter line, perch to perch with song and silence. What is needed is the needful things, the emptiness, the lost, the misguided, the blind, the lame, the hungry, the requisite hollow places in the body, the buoyancy of air in the bones, the choiring in the vaulted airy places, the pulling against the gravitas of earthly things, the owl be damnness of us flying in the face of what is needed. Thank you.
Wonderful, Robert. Thank you so much. Thank you again, as always. Stephen with a V, you're up, and Salvatore, you're on deck.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is called Connection, and it was inspired by the late Tony Hoagland. Connection. Take the words out. Take my words out and one by one replace with your own words, spaces and punctuation, keeping my feeling and emotion. Take the words out. Take my words out. Twist, pound, and shape until it all falls into place. Until my words become yours. My experiences become yours. My memories and dreams no longer mine. Take the words out. Take my words out until this poem takes you where you want to be. Until this poem takes you where you need to be. And I have become your catapult, the means by which you get there, the means by which you got here. Take the words out. Take my words out until I'm nothing but the naked truth of what you want to hear, of what you need to hear. Take the words out. Take my words out. I relinquish them to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thanks for stopping in. All right, Salvatore, you're up. Valerie, you're on deck.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. Yeah, thanks everyone for having me, and thanks to the features for reading. Great reading. Thank you guys. So this piece I'm going to read, I wrote a couple of summers ago. It's called Postcard from a Splashdown, and it's postmarked Sunday, August 2nd, 2020. As if projected from God's celestial vista, ejecting from space, ex-earthlings descend downwards through atmosphere, the rupture of hot air, a steady and intimate plumage, the domed capsule plummets, susceptible as acorns, the retaliation of its detracted apparatus, slowing its descent, parachutes like jellyfish suspended in ocean water just beneath, float down in slow lament, their biomimetic undulations met softly by the surface impacted by splashdown. A dragon, its head diving, endeavors to cool waters, to expunge the raw heat from brushing frictions, calm and indifferent to the categories of adjacent storms. A recreational flotilla gravitates in the Gulf of Mexico to greet astronauts. Like an armada contemplating strategic landfall for 45 years, a candidacy encouraged by humans for quarantine. Thanks, guys.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen. All right, Valerie, you're up, and my old friend Walter, you're on deck.
Hi, yes, thank you, Stephen and Emiliano and all the readers. It's so wonderful to hear your voices. And thanks, Tony. Sweet taste of a great God surprise, coming back to the office after lunch. Mulberry stains on her fingers, some crushed on her shoes. On her tongue, a sweet balm against professional jealousy makes her giggle, while cafeteria buzzards circle. When June's lightning flashes and rain fills the roses, her heart flutters like a finch. The gray cubicle dwellers frown, their fingers stinging with paper cuts. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, so Walter, you're up, and then I have somebody on the phone. I don't know if they're still with us. Let me see. Nope. So Walter, I've got it. Have I missed, before we do Walter, have I missed anybody? I think I got everybody. All right, Walter, bring it on home. Bring it on
Thank you
home.
very much, Tony, and thank you everybody for sharing your talents and your hard work. I have some haikus. I'd like to read 4 if I could also.
That's fine.
Yes, I'll marry you. I do. 40 years. Now she's her mother.
Oh,
in a good way.
Okay, because that could be,
Yeah. I wait in the car. My wife shops, till she drops. Soon, the Amex bill.
He's a brave man.
The frail priest intones, let us pray. Heads bow, knees bend, a baby cries out. And lastly, Bombay Martini, straight up, ice cold with a twist. Oh, so very dry.
All right. Very good. Wonderful. I want to thank everybody here tonight. Emiliano, I want to thank you so much. Stephen, thank you so much. This has been a great night. I really appreciate it. We'll pick it back up again the first week in December. And I look forward to seeing you all then. Everybody stay safe. As always, I'll leave the room open if people want to socialize for a little while. You certainly can. So everybody have a great time. Thank you so much for coming out. And wonderful
Tony.
readings tonight.